I'm gonna pop up a document, and if you guys are starting to get the gist of it, I'll say the consistency of, we like to repeat the Sandler process in these calls. The more that you can recognize, and better yet, lay out the Sandler process, the better chance you have at applying it, number one, and number two, really determining where your deal stands in the pipeline. That's one of the big gaps that we see. I get a lot of salespeople going, "Hey, how do I maneuver? How do I get this plan to get across the finish line?" Well, oftentimes, if you're asking that question, it's a little bit too late. But the process really does have all of the answers to moving a deal across the finish line or into a place where we're just going to disqualify and not move forward. It truly does all of that for you. So if you think about where we were the last few weeks, and I'll draw real quick here. We were talking about pain, and who wants to answer this question? How do people buy?
With emotion.
With emotion. And how do they rationalize their decisions?
Logic.
Logic or intellectual. And the process does that. When we go back to the pain step, we know that if we follow that series of 8 questions, hey, tell me more about this. How long has this been going on? Tell me how you feel about it. If we drive deeper into that conversation, we are going to get some pains from somebody. And then if you notice, where we went last week is we kind of went, I don't know how to draw it here. Well, we went into questioning strategies. And questioning strategies fit entirely through the process. We should be operating in a space where the prospect is talking 70% of the time, and we are talking only 30% of the time. So we've got to be aware of that. And as we talk about questioning strategies, that's really what's going on. And the pain step, I've said it before, is nothing more than a questioning exercise. It's just peeling back the onion to move into the emotional space so that we can better understand why somebody needs something. So we've got the pain step. We've got to advance forward into these other 2 steps, because at Sandler, and whoever wants to call it out can certainly call it out, where are we giving out our solution at Sandler? So I know it's on the board, but somebody's got to say it. The answer is right in front of us.
Present solution.
How did you figure that out, Bill?
It's all on the board.
It's on the board. It used to not be on the board. But we just made these updates that are being rolled out right now. So present the solution. It comes after these 2 elements. Understanding the investment, and we'll dig in a little bit. We'll touch it today, but we're going to talk about transitioning into it, and then making sure I'm talking to the right people. So the only way to really get there is through great questioning and following the pain funnel. So let's take a step sideways a little bit here. We talk about questioning strategies, and we're talking about trying to identify pain. We are always trying to figure out what the prospect is looking for. It doesn't matter how great your product or service is. It's understanding what the prospect is looking for and determining whether or not that our product and service solves their problem. By the way, that sounds really basic. The vast majority of salespeople do not sell that way. They sell in a self-interest focus, and that's why the Sandler system, this process, can be so effective. When we talk about questioning, we've talked about reversing, answering every question with a question. Fabiano, why should I buy from you?
Well, I'm not sure you should buy from me, but you could share with me what you're looking for in a perfect buy.
We are, yeah, listen to that. Awesome. So that's a straight up reverse. And then we've heard throughout these conversations, we've heard a little bit of negative reversing. Lyle's going to be our negative reverse master. We're gonna label him that. And then we've got the answer then reverse. yes, our product does that, but can you tell me why you're looking for it? Or this is how we do it. Can you tell me why you asked me that question? We can do that. That's an actual strategy at Sandler. And there's some other tactics at Sandler that we'll get into later on that'll give us other ways to ask very specific questions. But we're going to move a little bit into a mindset conversation here for a second. Whoops. I just got to make sure I'm clicking the right shapes here. All right. So here's what often happens in the world of selling. We are asked questions that we know the answer to. So prospect asks us a question, we know the answer, and now, hey, you know, David, do you have some openings for general counsels right now? David knows the answer is yes. But he's now got Dave Trapani and David Sandler going, don't say that. You can't say it, David, because if you say it, what happens? Prospect is in control at that point. So we're going, wait a second, you can't do this. Well, let's look at a little bit of the psychology and maybe some other elements here that play into it. Psychologically, a lot of what goes on in the world of sales is really getting hampered by what goes on between our ears. In other words, when David gets asked that question, and David, I'm only picking on you because you are the center square today. So David knows the answer. And it could be a little bit of a challenge because we talked about our upbringing and that we've been conditioned to answer questions. And now we're getting a little bit twisted information that says, don't answer, reverse. And it may be a little bit uncomfortable because if I know the answer and you're kind of hamstringing me, then that's uncomfortable. It just doesn't feel right. Now, I think that you guys are awesome. And by the way, the vast majority of our clients are awesome in that they will often follow our lead. So here's the other thing that happens in the world of sales. So again, mindset's playing a big role here. The other thing is, for some of us, not for all, we might be relatively newer to the world of sales. And one of the things that we as salespeople really fight for is to learn everything about our product and service so that we can talk about it. So when I'm speaking to a salesperson and they just started with an organization, let's just imagine they just started, and it always happens with people that have been around, that have been in sales for a while, but are not professionally trained in sales. They always say, once I learn the story, I'm going to kill it here. And when they say that to me, I say, don't have that belief system. Because if you're fighting so hard to learn the story, what happens once a salesperson learns all about their story? What do they do? What is it, David? He doesn't want to come off mute.
I'm shy. Talk.
They want to talk. Hey, if I can learn my product and then I can wow my prospects. At Sandler, we're not here to wow our prospects. We're here to determine whether or not there's a good fit between the product and service that you need, the emotional issue that you have, and I'm going to fill the gap on that. So we have something, and I'm going to reframe this up here. Actually, I'll just type it. New name. Allison, you and I might have talked about this. It was called the dummy curve. It's now called the learning curve. By the way, anybody on the call, quick show of hands that has gone to an Ivy League school here or close to Ivy League school. And by the way, it's not me. Lyle, you went to close to Ivy League? Where'd you go to school?
Vanderbilt, Harvard of the South.
Not a bad, yeah. All right. Sweet. So the reason I asked that question is over the years, I've trained a handful of Ivy League school graduates. And we used to call it the dummy curve up until literally like a month ago. And this is like just being rolled out now, trying to be a little bit more politically correct. And every one of my Ivy League graduates would say, I don't like this. I don't like what you're teaching me here because it doesn't fit into my DNA. So Lyle's a little bit more adaptable, so I'm not too worried about him. But what the learning curve is all about is it's about making money and it's about the time in sales. So let's think about this. Let's imagine you're brand new to a company and even brand new in sales, and you end up in the field, right? And I think for some of us that have been around for a little bit, we've probably seen folks like this. They have rookie success. In other words, they come in, they know very little, and in their first 4 to 8, 4 to 12 months, they do really well with their prospects. Anybody want to guess why that might be?
They're selling to friends and family.
Let's take friends. Okay, so wait, they're selling to friends and family, which means what do those people have a little bit more of? What's the linkage? A little more trust?
Yes.
I like it. I like it. So there's more trust being built.
Thank you for answering your own question.
Well, I didn't want to. I didn't think I asked the question very good. Were you going to get it right?
No. Well,
I didn't
I was
ask
gonna say commonality, but yeah.
Yeah, I didn't ask the question very good, Lyle. That's why I figured let me just jump in and answer it. Every once in a while, somebody goes, "I don't understand the question," and that was one of those moments in my head. But there's a lot of trust being built with friends and family. Let's imagine now they've moved beyond friends and family. They're now out in the field, but they're still new. What else might happen in this space?
I would say their manager or their mentor is watching them, so they're following every part of the system perfectly, and they're like getting referrals and they're working everything script wise that they're supposed to do in that first period.
By the way, I've never, in all my years of training, I've never had that response, but I would believe that they're trying to follow the system. They're trying to follow the rules. So I'm going to just write FTR.
They have enthusiasm.
They definitely have enthusiasm. What do
And
they
the answer
have?
that you're looking for is they don't overtalk. Period.
Well, how do you know I was looking for that? But they have enthusiasm. I like this because they have enthusiasm, but they don't overtalk. So who's doing the majority of the talking here?
The prospect client.
Ross, what were you going to add to this? I think you were going to say something else.
It was going to be similar to Lyle's answer, which was it's sort of a blind confidence starting out.
Yeah, why is that?
Because it's really expectations for us, for the rookie, and once they start to get familiar with the process, then they could find ways to make it their own, which of course would hit a little bit of a tumble, which is the middle part.
Yeah. Sweet. So actually, guys, I gotta be honest, some of these answers are things that people have not brought up, and I think every one of them is relevant in this rookie phase. More trust, more following the process, a little more enthusiasm, but less talking. So what happens when a prospect asks, and let's imagine the manager's not there. What happens when a prospect asks the rookie salesperson, does your product do something? And they don't know about it. How do they typically answer then?
Hell yeah. Something like that.
Well, wait. If I'm being honest and I don't know anything about my product or service, and a prospect says, "Hey, does your product do this?" and I don't know, what might I say, Andre?
I would say that's a great answer. Let me go find it for you.
Great, it's a great question. Why don't you let me go find out? Yeah, I know you're. Yeah, so the reversing gets built again if we're being genuine, and we can be enthusiastic. We can say, "Hey, we have really good stuff," but I don't know if our product does that. Should I go find out for you? Who feels like they're in control in this stage down here? Prospect or salesperson? Fabiano, prospect, right? I can read your lips. The prospect totally feels like they're in control because the salesperson isn't trying to dazzle them. So the trust is really built. Then what happens is, this is where, and statistics kind of prove this out, probably about 80% of salespeople will land in what we call the amateur space. Sales are going down. We've learned a lot about our product and service, and now the prospect is only talking 30% of the time. We've kind of shifted the control. I want to show my stuff. I want to give you all my information. I know all the answers. Let me tell you all about it. And now we're doing the majority of the talking. And when a salesperson is doing the majority of the talking, prospects are typically not buying. You will observe this. You probably have seen it with salespeople, but in the future, as you start to encounter more and more salespeople in all different roles and walks of life, you'll see this in play all the time. Let me tell you what my product can do for you. And this is where most salespeople land. This is where we're trying to go. Our goal is to get into the professional phase, which is take everything we learned from the rookie phase and then do it intentionally. And that's why they're reversing and asking of questions and being comfortable with no and doing all of that stuff. When we can master that from an application standpoint, that's when we will see the best possible outcomes. Because we know everything about our product or service, we just don't blurt it out, show up and throw up. We actually understand why prospects are asking certain questions, and we can determine where we need to fill in those gaps. Prospect now, 70% of the talking is coming from the prospect, and the prospect, once again, is in total control of the sales process, or more importantly, feels like they're in charge of the sales process. So we call that the learning curve. And if you guys think about it, and what I'd like you to do is I'll send you out to breakout rooms in a moment. We can think about some places where this applies. So for example, I'll get a question every once in a while. Hey, Dave, we're looking for some sales training. Well, where do you need help? Well, we need help in prospecting. Now, at that moment, there's a reverse in there. Well, where do you need help? We need help in prospecting. We do a lot with prospecting. If Allison wants, Allison, we've been working on your script a lot, and we work on cold call. I mean, we're doing a lot of prospecting together. Different techniques. I can define all of that for a prospect. But when I say to a prospect, well, what do you mean by prospecting? They say all different things. Different people define prospecting in their own world, what it means to them. If I allow them to draw the picture, I have a better chance of solving that. So I might say, hey, when you say prospecting, Allison, it sounds like you're looking for a prospecting class. Can you tell me specifically what you're looking for? Nothing more than another reverse. So what I'd like to do is actually I'm going to stop my share for a second. And I'm going to send you out to, what do we got? I'm going to send you out to 3 breakout rooms. Jeffrey, you should be able to unmute, but you don't have to come off camera. We know you have trouble. And all I want you to do, I'm going to just give you a very quick 3 minutes. Just think of a few questions that you get in the field that perhaps sometimes pigeonhole you into a space where you've defined something before really the prospect has. Similar to my idea, hey, do you guys offer prospecting, a program on prospecting? Well, the basic answer might be yes, but the real answer is, well, can you tell me more about that? Think about some questions that maybe in your space put you a little bit into a corner, and then you've got to back out. All right, so Jeffrey will hang with me, or he'll go into a room he can't speak. I'm going to give you 3 minutes. Just come up with 1 or 2 questions within the group or individually of questions, again, that sometimes paint you into a corner. And then we'll come back and we'll very quickly talk about it and then move on to our next step here. Any clarification? Do my instructions need clarification? They usually do. Everybody's good, that means. All right, I'm going to stop the record.